Welcome back to the Keep Going podcast with Vin Kennedy. I'm your host, Vin Kennedy. Today we have a guest. This is Rob. Rob, you want to do a brief intro on yourself?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm Rob. I'm from Connecticut, and among a lot of things, I'm a distance runner, and this year I'm running all six world major marathons.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's incredible. And you've done it before, correct?
this year in London, I completed like my first loop of the six world marathon majors, but I'm also doing them in this calendar year, all six. So
Right.
the journey to get it done once took 8 years, but I'm doing them all in this one year.
Yeah. And honestly, the more I see you posting about it, it's probably tougher to get into these marathons than to actually run these marathons for yourself, for sure. Would you
That
agree?
Yeah, completely. It takes a lot of planning. If anybody has applied to any of the races, the lotteries are very challenging to get in. And it's also expensive. Like they're not super accessible races. They're all over the world. And so it takes a bit of planning to figure out, okay, if I'm going to do something, kind of crazy, like all six in one year, where do I want to, take my chances and going through the lottery versus work with a charity partner versus go another route like a tour partner or something like that. So there's a couple routes, and yeah, it takes planning, but getting in is definitely well, I'd say getting in is the hardest part, but like after doing three marathons in 7 weeks and Boston and London only being 6 days apart, it's actually not that easy to do them either.
No, absolutely. And how did you like logistically map it out?
If I'm honest, it just kind of happened in terms of like getting all six on the calendar. So like the whole reason that I ever wanted to do the six world marathon majors was well, I'd been running already, and I started running a little bit with my sister. It was kind of a thing that was a bit of a family. It was just like a way that we kind of bonded as a family. And in 2017, my dad got diagnosed with cancer, and my sister and I decided, hey, why don't we do the world marathon majors together as a way of kind of honoring our dad and bonding as a family, and just kind of having something to do together. And so we committed to going on that journey together. And then coming into 2023, after like COVID delayed everything a couple of years and all this stuff, we had to do Tokyo and London to finish it off. So we both signed up with charity partners to do those two races, and we were just going to kind of get it done. And in the process, I qualified for Boston, so that was three. I did 9+1, and which gets you guaranteed entry into New York because I live here in Manhattan. A lot of my friends wanted to take a crack at qualifying for Boston in Chicago, and so I was like, "Well, I'd love to be a part of that with you guys." So I was in for Chicago. Also, the Boston time qualifies you for Chicago, so I was in for five, and then I figured, well, if I'm doing five, I might as well do six. That would kind of be cool. Not not that many people do it. Like 20 people a year, in the world do it. So it's kind of a special thing. But yeah, just good fun.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And that's a really, really cool bonding experience with your sister. I actually ran my sister's first marathon with her in Arizona as well. And I'm about to pace her for a second. So I definitely can relate to that for sure. What was the experience like doing the majors with her though?
Yeah, it's special. I mean, the first time, so we've been in the same race every time except for Boston. We went on different years. She went with a charity partner. I went through time. I really wanted to time qualify, and that took me a couple tries. So we've been in them a lot together, and we've run together a couple times. And the first time was before we even had this idea in 2015. She was kind of going through a tough spot personally, and we're like, hey, I was like, hey, I'll run it with you. Let's just do this together. And that was like a super powerful day. That was before this whole thing kind of came to be what it was. But we ran London together side by side the whole way, and yeah, it was just awesome. Just the why behind our journey. We had a lot kind of wrapped in it emotionally and as a family. So running London was super powerful. We crossed the line hand in hand, and it was really special. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. The deep purpose, it really drives, it makes the hard work and hard miles easy. And for yourself, so I also noticed on Instagram that you were helping Shaq and others as well, kind of start their marathon journey, start their running journey. And I thought that was so cool. Like I saw a video, I think it was just you in Central Park holding up a sign, like if you're running the New York City Marathon and you want help, like I'm here to help. How did you kind of kick that off?
Yeah. So when I signed up for the 6 marathon majors this year, I wanted to just kind of chronicle my journey. I thought it'd be cool as like a memory book, honestly. And so I downloaded TikTok, and I don't know, at some point in January, I did my first video. It was like, I'm going to go run 22 miles, like with my friends. And when I got to Tokyo, it was really just meant to be a memory book. And when I got to Tokyo, I met now like an amazing friend, Tyler Schwartz, who runs Endorphins. We hit it off, and I just met so many incredible people in Tokyo through that experience. Went to a shakeout run that Tyler had organized, and I just got super inspired by like all the people in the running community and around me. Been running for 20 years, but relatively new to going to run groups and just really getting baked into the community. And so I just got super inspired, and it made me want to learn more about other people. And it made me realize like, okay, yeah, I'm doing something kind of cool, but there are so many like seemingly ordinary people who, work in tech or, work some other day job, but on the side have these incredible passions and do incredible things. And it just made me want to learn about them. And so I started doing a little bit more um, posting and sharing my story, and like all this energy started coming my way. People started reaching out, sharing their own stories. And then also I came to realize that having done 20 marathons, I've actually acquired a lot of knowledge through experience. I've run fast, I've run slow, I've run just as many marathons over 5 hours as I have under 3 hours. Um, you know, I so I can kind of relate to a lot of runners and their experiences. I've been through all the paces. And so I thought, hey, maybe this is of value to some folks. And so, yeah, I wanted to do something a little bit different. And I literally made a sign. I have it because I was actually just out there last Friday doing it again. It says, wave if you're running the New York City Marathon. And if somebody waves, I literally just chase them down. And I'm like, hey, what do you need to work on? And it was probably the most cringeworthy thing I've ever done, or has been the most cringeworthy thing I've ever done in my life. I was down really bad in the moments before I met Shaq, who's now a great friend. We literally talk every day. But the moment I met him, I was like, I'm so glad I'm so glad I stuck around. This was worth it. And I knew something kind of special was going to happen.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I'm not kidding. I saw that and I was like, this is cool. Like that was the draw. Like I saw you ran 20 marathons. I saw you did the majors, and I'm like, these are things that people just do, but the type of person you are speaks to, the helping others. And like I said, we talked about it earlier today, like that was the draw. And especially like the relationship that you could see that you built with Shaq is so cool. And I closely relate it to I just had two friends PR their distance this weekend. It's been 3 weekends in a row, and you know how this is. This is all scalable. So we've just been a couple of close friends have been hitting like crazy distances. And last weekend I had two people reach out that have never ran over a marathon. I was like, we're doing
Uh-huh.
28. You want to come? And they both PR'd, and like one of them was really going through it for the last like 4 miles probably, but it was just like it was finishing that and like helping other people. And it's so much cooler when it's not about you. Like that's just what I've learned personally. And I feel like you're in a similar mission.
Yeah. Like honestly, like I don't view it as like helping people. Like in the end, I'm just invested in in other people's success. And I really actually I kind of felt that last year. A bunch of people I ran with, we went out to Berlin and ran the Berlin Marathon, and I wanted to crack three. I wanted to get a Boston qualifier, but as we like got close to the race, I realized I cared just as much, if not more, about my friends hitting their goals, as I did care about hitting my own. And like if I missed my goal that day, but they achieved theirs, I think I would have left honestly just as happy and fulfilled. So yeah, I just feel like it's if I meet somebody and we're able to talk shop and they're able to leverage some insight that I have, I just view it as like helping a friend. like even if they're a stranger, like we're all in it together. Anyone who's doing something like running a marathon it's crazy. It's crazy stuff. Like there was a time in my life, I remember somebody being like, "Oh, will you ever run a marathon?" And I like laughed out loud. Like that is the craziest thing ever. And I don't know, you fast forward and it's like 20, I've done 20 of them. And like I hope everyone that does them realizes like they're doing something special, and like, I don't know, we're all just one big community doing it together.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And I definitely want to. Where is Shaq at in his journey? Is he new to running?
Well, he's run a marathon before. He's a super talented guy. His whole family is super talented. His aunt ran in the Olympics. He's super fit. So he's been running distance for a couple years.
And he's in pursuit for sub 3 as well.
Yeah, yeah, that's what's fun. We're both training for to try to go sub 3 again this fall. Again, just want to get on the Boston qualifier train. He's also trying to go through and complete the 6 world marathon majors. So, yeah, going through Boston's a key part of that.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. And something we talked about earlier was you create your own fuel, which I think is really, really interesting because I've tried every goo and gel, and I'm personally at this point, I'm just not taking anything. And I'm just eating solid. I'm in ultra training anyway, so I could just eat solid food and get away with it. But I know when I dive back into marathons, I'm gonna need to find something. But if you kind of want to walk me through that,
Yeah, so for fuel, I basically got to a point where I was beginning to do really high mileage weeks, 60, 70-mile weeks. And when you're running that much and you've got multiple runs a week that are over an hour in duration, you really need to get dialed into nutrition and hydration while exercising. And I basically found that things on the market, I either didn't like them or they were really expensive. Like for example, I really enjoy Morton. I like Morton gels, but they're $4 a pop. Like you can't have that's too expensive. You can't have that every day, and you can't train with that regularly and race with it. So I found that I was only using it selectively for a few long runs and then a race. And so, when you look at the back of the ingredient packs, only a few key ingredients that you need. Everything else is a bit superfluous for flavor or as a preservative. And so I realized you could buy all this stuff. You can, you know, sparse it out in the way that you want. You can put together the ratios of exactly what is to your preference. You could do it really cheaply and accessibly. And so, yeah, I started making electrolytes and powders that also had carbohydrates in them. And then I've been making my own gels. And so this year for all the world marathon majors, I've exclusively fueled with my own nutrition. Last year I used my own electrolytes. This year I'm doing both gels and electrolytes and fueling for the entire race. And I use them in my training as well.
cool. How do you package the gels?
Yeah, so I ordered, it took me a while to find them because they're not very available on Amazon. But yeah, I found little sachets like goo. It looks like a casing that you'd find a commercially stocked energy gel in, and then like a heat press, and the heat press just, heat seals it.
Cool. Yeah, no, it's definitely something to think about. I think a lot of us just spend the money and don't really give it any consideration when it's so true. It's like you could just look at the back of these packages and piece this stuff like together yourself.
Yeah, and the other thing I learned over time was uh, early on in my running journey, I underfueled, and there's probably a lot of runs where I didn't take something, or if it was kind of on the in between of like, should I or shouldn't I? I'm like, well, that thing, like, I don't want to waste the money to have it, but you need to be able to like remove that and just focus on like what is the best thing for my body. And creating this stuff has helped me just focus exclusively on like how do I optimize my performance. And so that kind of opened up a new level of how I think about fueling.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And personally for you, you mentioned endorphins earlier. And what has the big switch been between like making this kind of like a solo mission and now adding the community aspect?
Yeah. So being a part of the endorphins community specific has completely changed my life. Like I tell this to Tyler all the time. I'm like, dude, what you've created has changed my life. Him individually, personally, and then just the community. I've never felt in my life like my values and my lifestyle have been more aligned. Over the last year, I made a bunch of like changes in my life. I really cut back on alcohol. I basically like don't really drink anymore. I've changed a lot of things in my diet, and finding a community of, and not everybody does that, but having a large community that brings like a lot of energy and engagement has really just created an atmosphere where my values and lifestyle and everything are aligned. Not just like when I'm running, but like in the evenings. Like Saturday, was out at Orchard Street Runners Race, chasing people over the bridge on a city bike, and I was just like, "This is crazy." It's a Saturday night. I'm like chasing runners around on a city bike. This is ridiculous, and I couldn't be having more fun. It was just awesome. And that all happened from meeting Tyler back in Tokyo back in March.
Yeah, man, I'm definitely with you on that. And I've created like a small group myself of just close friends that we all do this stuff and we're in a similar path as we don't, none of us drink. And it's interesting because like you look at like Friday nights now is like getting to bed early so you can wake up for like a Saturday long run. And it's just like such a game changer. And you don't really get it until you're in it. And it's just another way. You really found like another way to do it.
Totally, totally. That's awesome. That's awesome that you guys have that, and you look forward to it, right? Like it's not like going to bed early on Friday as a punishment. You're just so excited about Saturday, and that's really cool.
No, absolutely, man. And honestly, I started seeing Tyler stuff, I think a year ago. Like I was brand new to running and just kind of getting into it. And like I said earlier, like it's so cool to see how scalable all of this is. And like I'm sure you have the conversation with people all the time where it's like, oh, like that time is so fast or that distance is so far. And it's like if you just stick with it, like all of this is doable.
In 1 year, you're already doing ultras. That's insane.
I also like have the most like all in, all out like mentality ever. So it's and that was honestly my good friend Dan paced him in December. He did 100, and I was just like, I need to do this. We did 36 together in like the woods in North Carolina, and I was like, I need to do this.
That is insane. It's also kind of funny, if you watch somebody do a marathon, you might be inspired to do a half marathon, but you went to go see someone run 100 miles. So then you're
Yeah,
like, okay, it's all relative. I'll do 50. Fine.
literally. No, I'm doing 100 on August 5th, but it was literally just from that. Like I met this kid 3 months before that, and he was like, "Hey, I know you run a lot. You want to pace me?" I was like, "I only do marathons right now." And he's like, "I don't care. I think you could do it. Like the pace is way slower in ultras." I was like, "All right, whatever." Yeah,
That's awesome. It's a different headspace. And like to the point of, you only met him, 3 months ago. And this isn't just true in running, but running is one of these aspects. Experiences drive friendships and bond faster than like most conventional ways of spending time with people. And you create those moments very quickly through exercise and running and movement, whether it's running or cycling, or you end up on an adventure, and it is shocking how quickly you can build a bond, how quickly you can build trust. I mean, you're in the trenches together in a different way. So yeah, it's incredible. That's awesome that you guys found that.
sure, man. You definitely connect on like a different level, and I think of a younger version of myself where I used to go out and it was like, "Oh, these are my boys," and like you're just drinking. Like I don't really know what's going on. You don't really connect on a deeper level where this stuff, like you're so right, like the athletics and just doing hard things together, you grow.
Yeah, 100%. That's
Yeah. And
awesome.
then
We're doing 100 miler. It's insane.
but it's so like I'm shocked you're not. I mean, think about how many marathons you've done. You're there, man. I mean, have you ever thought about ultras?
Well, the first marathon I ever did was actually the end of a Ironman. So I did kind of jump in the deep end a little bit,
Yeah,
but I've
I
never
mean, what are we talking about?
but I've never run more than 26.2 uh that I know of. Maybe. I mean, like you found, it's all relative. It's just like it's whatever gives you the burn. Like it's whatever you feel inspired to do. There was a day where you and somebody said marathon and we thought that was a crazy concept, and then a day comes where you wrap your head around it and you feel excited, inspired, and motivated to do it, and you just flip a switch in your head. Like that's what happens. And maybe the switch isn't like absolute. I think you and I are kind of like-minded. We're pretty all in people. For some people, it might be more of a dimmer, and that's totally fine. And it might not be a marathon. It might be a 5K. It might be just showing up to a yoga class. But I don't know. There's something about when you find something that excites you and invigorates you and is, something that I think resonates with us is like something I know I can't do today, but if I do these things, I'm going to be able to achieve that. Like that's something that always motivates me is knowing like if I commit to these steps, I can achieve something that I absolutely have no ability to do today. And then looking back on that growth and ideally enjoying the journey along the way is gives me a lot of energy.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. And I think that's the coolest part is like the growth in the journey because like you said earlier, like we're gonna miss some goals, like it's just gonna happen. But
Totally.
watching yourself change and the evolution through that is just that's what it's all about.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And then something else I noticed is you were really big into cycling, correct?
Yeah, I never raced bikes. I actually used to do a podcast about professional cycling. None of my friends gave two craps about it. And so I thought, you know what? Let me talk to the world about it. Maybe somebody will listen. I started it at a good time. I started it in January 2020. So that whole summer, stuck in my own apartment, it was good timing, both to be able to watch races on TV and then be able to talk about them pretty quickly. So yeah, I've always been really passionate about professional cycling, or at least the last 6 or 7 years. And then I just enjoy riding. I usually do a triathlon every year. Um, I don't do road racing, but yeah, I quite enjoy riding bikes.
That's awesome. And then you mentioned too the Ironman. If you want to kind of touch on that.
Yeah, so like for me, growing up, I was always injured. I don't know what it was. Ever since like I went past 30, I've been healthier than ever before. I think part of that is knowledge is power, and we know so much more now, and part of that's also just experience and learning your body and when to push, when not to push, how to manage through different things. But growing up, like in high school and college, I was always injured, and so if I couldn't run, I started biking. And then there was times where I couldn't even bike, so I threw myself in the pool. And I was like, all right, well, maybe I should try this triathlon sport I've heard about. So I think it was like my senior year of college. I bought some, rinky dink road bike, whatever I could get off eBay at the time. And I did a sprint triathlon. And I was fired up. I had a blast doing that. And so I did a sprint I think my junior and senior year of college. And then I did the New York City triathlon the year after I graduated. And then literally the day after that, I was like, I'm going to do an Ironman. And I signed up for Ironman New York City the next day. Yeah.
That's awesome. And what was that experience like?
Well, fortunately, that year was the first New York City Ironman, and it was a complete disaster. Sweltering heat. It's July in New York. I don't know whose idea that was. Horrible idea. And they never did that race again. They canceled it. So they told everyone you can move to any other race you want on the calendar. We will let you in no matter what. I ended up choosing Ironman Mont Tremblant up in Canada. It's about 90 minutes northeast of Montreal. And I've long held that was one of the best days of my life. It was awesome.
That's awesome. How do you compare it to a marathon?
Completely different. It is a complete unknown zone. It's also a different level of camaraderie. And I'm sure you'll find this in the ultra community as well. I'm not saying you can fake your way through a marathon, but you find people there with different motivations, different paces, different experiences. When you're doing something of that ultra distance, something that's going to take 10, 12, up to 17, 18 hours, up to 17 hours to complete, it's just a different level of commitment to get the race done. Now, surely if you're like an elite marathoner and most folks, we are committed, real athletes working out every day very hard. But if you're in an environment where you need to be putting in 14, 18, 20 plus hours a week baseline for many, many months, I found that the degree of mutual respect, admiration was just incredible at that event. And unlike anything I'd experienced. And so the vibes were just like incredible.
Yeah, that's cool. It's true. Yeah, it's definitely it seems like a different atmosphere for sure. And then what is like what when you're in those like tough miles, what is something that you tell yourself?
Well, I think first I try to keep it real, and I think this is just kind of come with experience. Like if I'm not having a day, actually like take stock of the body and make sure I'm like being smart about what I'm doing, and be not just try to grit it out on strength alone and like grind through it, but listen to like, okay, what's happening and how can I best mitigate it and keep that awareness. Maybe it's like, okay, actually it's in my long-term interest to slow down for a minute, take on some fuel versus just like power through it. So I try to bring awareness and like realness to the situation and not just try to push through with adrenaline. So that's first. But second, my go-to mantra is look good, feel great. And I'll like repeat that to myself on repeat. The look good is actually about form. It's reminding myself to like keep good form. And then the feel great is just there's like a ton of data around if you are forcing yourself to smile, you will have benefits. Like there are physical benefits to bringing both positive mindset and positive like physical responses and expressions in your physical output. So basically just trying to tell myself keep good form, be happy, enjoy, and I'll just repeat and just turn the legs over.
Yeah, no, I like that. And I do a similar thing too, especially when I'm in like deep miles or on a long run, and I run a lot on the boardwalk, and there's always
Yeah,
people passing and always people running. And like whenever I'm hurting, my friends know because I'll high five people, I'll say good morning because like I know that stuff will help me, even though it's just like giving positive energy out there.
that's amazing. Did you just came up with that one day?
It started to suck, and I was like, what am I gonna do? Bitch and complain, or I could just like give positive energy out. And yeah, I just started doing it. Like the high fives, like you could feel like again, I don't know exactly how to describe, but you could feel the endorphins. Like you feel a boost of energy. It's weird.
Totally, dude. That's awesome.
And what's life like outside of running? If there's anything you want to touch on.
Right now, it's so busy, man. Like I was saying, I've never been so inspired. I've probably never been happier. Like every night, I hit the pillow and I'm just like, wow, what a day! That was amazing. A pretty demanding job. Like I'm working a full day, and so my day's usually starting at 5:30 to get up and get my 5 to 9 in, as they say. And then a lot of times at night, or sometimes at night I'm working out, and if not, I'm doing stuff on social, or for anything I did over the weekend, trying to edit some videos and put them out now that I'm kind of doing that more regularly. And I travel a ton. I love traveling. I've got multiple international trips usually every year. So like I was just telling you before, I'm heading off on some vacation next week. I got a wedding, and it'd be my second time in Greece already this year. So yeah, a lot of travel mixed in. Really curious. The world's a big, beautiful place. I love seeing as much of it as I can.
That's awesome, man. I'm definitely with you on the traveling. And seriously, the content, I love it. It's great stuff, and you can just tell the positive energy and like the authenticity. And that also brings us to like, what's the significance of ice cream to you? Let's see. I see you're always about ice cream or
Dude, I
gelato.
literally I literally just ate a pint of ice cream to my face. Don't buy LEG's ice cream. You will eat it to your face a whole pint. I was gonna text you like, dude, I just ate a pint of ice cream. All right, fall asleep. I don't know. I just love it. I enjoy it. It's like a little treat. I mean, I eat pretty healthy, but I love having ice cream. It's a great way. Like if I'm sitting at home, I go grab an ice cream with a friend or even just get out. I just love it. Like why not?
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I saw you guys, you and a group of friends kind of made it like a trend, and it was I follow suit. I mean, every weekend I feel like I was getting ice cream without even trying.
Heck yeah, as it should be, especially in the summertime. So, and yeah,
Yeah.
I made a post at the beginning of the summer and I asked, oh no, I think I posted a picture of ice cream and it like got more responses than anything I've ever put any effort into. And so I asked the question, should I post every ice cream I have this summer on the account? Be careful how you vote on this. And it was like 97% said yes. I'm like, all right, careful what you wish for. So yeah, I just post every ice cream. So I'll do that the whole summer. I'm gonna add them up. I gotta see how many it's been. I don't know.
For real. It's funny though, because sometimes like the intentional posts don't land, but something simple and silly will.
That and like I asked people hot or iced coffee on a hot summer day, like most controversial thing I could have asked. It's funny. At the end of the day, like I don't know. I feel like I'm in a really fortunate position. This is separate from like the, the funny stuff, but I just get to follow my heart. Like at the end of the day, I've got an amazing full-time job. I make time to do all these other things that I love and I'm really passionate about. And it's got me in a position where I could do what I love. Like all the stuff I'm posting, I do it because I love it. Like I'm not getting paid to do it. Um, I do it because it brings me joy and it brings me fulfillment. And I think that's the happy place. If it was work and it was a grind, that'd be tough. And then you have to do things that might not be your natural path. But I'm in a super fortunate position to just be able to follow my heart. And like I said, at the beginning of the year, I did not expect my life to go in this direction where you'd be inviting me on here to talk. We'd have nothing to talk about. I didn't even have a TikTok account. I didn't post about running on Instagram. And so I'm just really lucky that I found people that inspired me to kind of follow my heart in a deeper way than I ever have before.
Absolutely, man. And it's so cool that you're helping the next guy. And even with that, like the real draw is like you're just having fun. Like I'm on the same wave. Like we're just having fun, and it's being authentic, and it just is what it is.
Yeah, totally. 100%.
And lastly, what keeps you going? Like how do you get through those tough miles? Like what do you really go like sink into and think about?
Man, it's kind of hard. Like I think we're all the same in that it's not easy every day. Like there's always the hard miles, but honestly, like I find it hardest getting out of bed in the morning. Like literally every morning there's a negotiation. I'm gonna go to bed. Like I could tell you, Vin, I'm gonna go to bed tonight. I'm gonna set my alarm for 5:30. And I'm gonna tell myself that I'm gonna pop out of bed at 5:30 when my alarm goes off. When my alarm goes off at 5:30 in the morning, there's a 90% chance I do not pop straight out of bed. And like the negotiation begins. I tell myself in my head, I'm like, get out of bed. I'm like, well, I could wait 10 minutes. I could pop open my phone. Well, I could probably work out tonight, not this morning because I'm tired. Like I feel like that's very normal for everybody. A lot of people think like everyone jumps right out of bed, and like if some people probably do, but I don't. I even though it's like my passion and I absolutely love it, it's not easy every day to like stick to your schedule. And like it's not you're not always inspired and motivated every day. It ends up being like that discipline. So I think what ultimately gets me out of bed is knowing I'm going to be happier once I do it. Like once I go and do that workout, I know I'm going to feel great. I know I'm going to feel happy. And conversely, if I don't do it, I'm going to like actively feel worse. Like I'm going to be kind of down about it, like myself. Um, yeah. So it's honestly, it's just knowing how good it's going to make me feel and knowing what it's like working towards. Like I always like having a purpose, like an end goal for my year. This year, it's really just hitting these marathons. But even within that, like Chicago, I want to run fast. And knowing that there's something I could do each day to contribute, one step closer to possibly achieving my goal gives me juice.
Yeah. No, and it's I don't know anybody that wants to do it every single day. And if they say they do, they're lying. Even like David
I'd
Goggins says
love
he
to
stares
talk
at
to him. I'd love
seriously,
to know
David
their
Goggins
secret.
says he stares at his shoes. Yeah.
That's true. Yeah. If Goggins stares at his shoes, we're all in it together.
Yeah. No, absolutely. But I honestly, man, I really, really appreciate the time and I hope you have a great trip.
Dude, thanks so much.
Of course.